Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. Welcome to my Holly Jolly Christmas series. My first little DIY is using this pot that already has been painted and has some moss in it. And I'm taking these tiny little evergreen picks that I got from Amazon. I'll have the product linked in my description box, and they're so pretty. They come in a huge bag, and all I'm going to do is arrange them in such a way that they look a little bit like a Christmas tree. Super easy to do. Next, I'm going to take some of this white and black twine, wrap it around a couple times, and tie it in a cute little bow. The second project I have for you today is using these letters that are going to spell out Holly Jolly. I started by doing a bit of a stain on them with black and brown acrylic paint. Didn't like that effect, so I took my white Craft Smart paint pen, painted them white. Still didn't like it, so I ended up painting them red. And I'm glad I went with the red. It showed up nice and deep because of the stain underneath it. Now I'm going to take one of these tote bags from the Dollar Tree. This buffalo check pattern is awesome to use in crafts, and it's so much easier than having to paint the buffalo check. It's a little on the shiny side, but if you put some Mod Podge on top and you're using the matte Mod Podge, it will dull the shine a little bit. I've cut a square of the buffalo check bag out, and my idea is to put it on top of this previously stained little palette. Now, what I want to be able to do is cut it out and make sure that I've got a little bit of that wood frame showing all the way around. What I want to do is have those little slats be visible. So I'm taking my craft knife and I'm just running it along the edge of the bottom slat and therefore cutting the bag, and then I'll be able to glue that on. Now you may be wondering why I'm not just gluing the piece of bag on top of the palette and then cutting out the slats. Well, I don't want to lose my pattern, and if I do that, then I'm going to have a smaller pattern. Some squares will be small, some squares will be big, and I don't want to do that. Now, the other thing I did was I just marked where I needed to cut, and I used my scissors because it just ended up being a cleaner cut and much easier. And voila, it's all finished. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I lost a whole bunch of footage, so I'm just going to talk you through what I did for this little DIY. Once I had the buffalo check bag all glued on, I took my letters, and you can see here that I used some large letters and some smaller letters, and I wanted this to be just a fun little sign. So I put the holly and the jolly a little wonky, and then I just literally added some holly and some red berries in the center, and this sign is finished. As I said earlier with that little pot, I like to reuse things, and I invested in two of these little espresso cups. They look like enamel. They're not, of course, but they were just $1.25 at my Dollarama store. And the reason I love these, and with my Craft Smart paint pen, is I can draw all sorts of things onto this, and then using pure acetone, I can literally just wipe it off and start something for the next season. So originally these had pumpkin spice on them, and now I'm going to do a Christmas tree. So this Christmas tree is looking pretty lame right now, but just bear with me, it gets better. Now, I don't want you to be intimidated by this. If you can't freehand draw yourself, that's okay. There's lots of other options. You could use some window clings, you could use a decal, a sticker, anything that you wanted to just dress up these little mugs. For the second little mug, I'm going to draw a little reindeer head, and it turns out pretty good. If you have a vinyl or a sticker or a decal, anything like that, it would probably turn out a little bit nicer, but I don't know how easy it is to peel all of those off, so I like doing things freehand so I can change it up for the season. My next little project is using this little Dollar Tree sleigh. It's an ornament, but I'm going to remove the string and I'm also going to remove that little embellishment because I have some different ideas for this. I love all things enamel, so I'm going to give it a couple of coats of the linen white chalk paint. I'm going to do the exterior, I'm going to do the interior, and then just the very bottom. But I'm going to leave those rails on it silver. I don't want to have to deal with painting that tiny little stuff. They probably would look better in black, but I decided to just give myself a break and just do it this way instead. While the sleigh is drying, I'm going to work on my presents. I have 2 of the tumbling tower blocks and I've got 3 of these little wood cubes that come from Crafter's Square. I'm going to use some jute twine and some black and white twine, tie some bows on them and make them look like little presents. To give this sleigh an enamel look, I'm just taking a black marker and I'm going to run it along the edges. And I'm also going to try and make it a little thicker in some spots so you can really see that black showing up. I'm also going to go around the bottom of the sleigh and make sure that I get those little pieces and points right here at the top. In preparation for the next thing I want to do, I'm just taking a couple of these little wooden blocks and I'm going to glue them into the bottom of the sleigh just to give me a little bit of height to work with. I've got some wired red ribbon here and I just think this color is beautiful. I'm going to just roll it up, glue it, and this is going to become Santa's gift bag. I'm just going to hot glue it right to the inside of the sleigh and make sure that I get those 2 seams put together nicely. As you can see here, I ended up having to take those little wooden blocks out so I could tuck the bag right to the bottom of the sleigh, and then I'm just going to pop them back in. Using some hot glue, I'm just going to glue the packages inside the sleigh and then add a few sprigs of holly. This next project is my absolute favorite. It is just adorable. I'm using some regular size popsicle sticks and I've got 2 sets of 4 here and they're about 3.5 inches in length. Then I'm cutting some more pieces that are about 1.5 inches in length. And I'm using these miter shears. I love them. I just got them not too long ago. I will have a link down in my description box for them if you want to go check them out. They are super handy for making different angled cuts, but even just working with popsicle sticks, I can't use scissors. It's just too difficult for me. So I am just using these miter shears to make the job easier. Now that I've got these 1.5 inch pieces cut, I'm going to use those as the pieces to glue the 4 longer pieces together. And that's going to make the sides of this little box that I'm creating. So now I've created 2 of the long sides of my box and now I have to create the short sides. So these are 1.5 inch pieces, maybe almost 2 inches, maybe 1 3/4 inches. Anyway, you can make this any size you want. It really doesn't matter, but this is the pattern that I'm using. So I'm going to now glue these together with these little side pieces. But what I'm doing now is I'm going to hang that side piece off the 4 because I want there to be a little bit of an overhang. And the reason I'm doing that is when I glue everything together, I want to have a nice seam in the corners. Now that the sides are all assembled, I need to give it a bottom. So I just cut some more popsicle sticks in the length that I needed and I'm just gluing them to either edge. Now it's time to paint, or I should say stain. I'm using some burnt umber and a little bit of black. I'm going to mix that together and then I will use a spray bottle to add some water and just make it a nice deep brown stain. I'm going to cover all of the box, the bottom, the sides, and the inside. While I wait for the box to dry, I'm going to take some of these little sticks that I got from my backyard and I'm going to dry brush some of them with white. I want them to look a little bit like birch logs. They're not going to be 100%, but some of that little bit of bark is going to show through. I just wanted to have a couple different colors of wood. I'm going to take this white marker that I have. It's not a paint pen, it's just a marker, and it's going to be very faint, and that's what I want. I wanted this box to kind of look old. So what I'm doing is just writing in the words birch and pine, and I'm going to put a little dollar amount next to them. So the birch will be 10 cents and the pine will be 5 cents. I'm going to add in some of these greenery picks and then I'll glue in the logs too. And at the end, I'm just going to add a few little red pip berries. The last project I have for you today is using these wood planks from the Dollar Tree and these beautiful napkins. These I did get at Dollarama. They're gorgeous. Look at the back side of them. That reindeer is beautiful and the snowflakes are so pretty. So what I'm going to do is cut out the reindeer and use my Mod Podge, glue that to the front. I'm going to take one of the pieces from the back and glue that on the back so I have a double-sided sign. I'm going to use Mod Podge to glue the napkin on, and because this is raw wood, you have to put a fairly decent amount because it's going to soak in pretty quickly. The other thing that I'm going to do is mist down the napkin with a little bit of water because that's going to give me some extra working time. Then I'll just lay the napkin right onto the wood plank and smooth it out as best I can. I don't mind having wrinkles and bubbles in my signs. I think that makes them look a little bit more aged and weathered and vintage. But if you want something really smooth, then you're going to have to be super, super careful with these napkins because they do tear fairly easily. Then I'm going to put a coat of Mod Podge on top, and then once it's dry, I'll remove the excess napkin. I'm using 3 of these tumbling tower blocks, and that's going to become the stand for my sign. I'm going to glue them together end to end with hot glue. The sign is fairly dry now, so what I'm going to do is take some sandpaper and just go along the edge to remove any of the excess napkin. This is a really easy way to get a nice clean edge. Now I'll repeat the same process with the napkin on the back of the sign. I'm going to put some glue down the center of the tumbling tower blocks and then glue the wood piece right on top. To finish the edging off and make it look a little bit more clean and high end, I'm using this buffalo check ribbon that I grabbed at Michael's. I think it's about a 1/2 inch wide, and I'm going to glue it down the center of the frame. So I'm going to have a little bit of ribbon poking out on each side. If you've been following me along on YouTube and watching my videos, you'll know that I'm not a bow person. But this sign needed a little something to finish it off. So I'm just going to make 2 little loops with some hot glue. And I'm going to glue them together. And then I'm going to make a tiny little loop and glue that in the center, and it will become my bow. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these cute little farmhouse Christmas minis. If you like this kind of content, I'd love for you to stick around a while. Hit that subscribe button. Those two black arrows will point you in the right direction. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.